Okay, so this is example 1 from 9.1, or question number 1 from 9.1. So you can count this as one of your 3 already finished for you. So really what I'm going to ask you to do is pick 2 from assignment 9.1, pick 2 from assignment 9.2, and pick 2 from assignment 9.3, and I'm not going to make you do 9.4. So just those 3 assignments. So really it's just 6 questions. Not too bad. So here's sort of the logic. I'm going to go through this with you guys. So everything is, they state at the beginning of the assignment that everything in these particular questions in 9.1 are all in root position. So they're going to apply to the root position rules. So the first step that you want to do is figure out what all these chords are, all right? So let's do that first. And we know they're in root position, so you can actually just know that it's an A major and look at the bass line and know exactly what it's going to be because there are no inversions to figure out. So our first note is A, and we're in A major, so that's going to be a 1 chord. All right? Second note is E. E is the 5th of A major, so that's 5. Pretty straightforward. All right? Next chord, we've got a low A, back to 1. All right, then we get a D. D is the 4th chord, or the 4th note in the A major scale, so we've got 4. And then we go back up to E, 5. And finally, last chord is going to be 1. All right, so that's all we have to do. From there, we've got to figure out what the notes are in each of these chords and how we're going to use them to fill in the alto and tenor parts. All right, so first chord, we've got A. So our options are A, C, and E. So we can use any of those. Now notice we already have an A and an A. So we've already got our A doubled. So we want to try to avoid using another A if we can. Sometimes we can't. So 2 options. You can have the alto go in the E, and then you could either double the A with the tenor, or you can just pop them up and give it the C. I would like to have the tenor to C since it's most important. If you're going to double a chord, or triple a note in a chord and leave one note of the chord out, always make it the 5th because it's sort of the least important note. So the tonic tells us what kind of chord it is. The 3rd tells us whether it's major or minor. So those are 2 important things to have. The 5th doesn't really give us any information beyond it's a chord. So if you have to drop something, drop the 5th of the chord. Unless, of course, you are in 2nd inversion. And then in 1st inversion, obviously, you want to also drop the 5th. Okay, so now we're moving on to 5, and here's where our skills come into play. Now, the 5 chord starts on E, so our notes are E, G, and B in our dominant chord, right? Now our E's match up, they carry over. So if we're going to follow rule number 1, this E is going to carry over. And then we can fill in the other one. So we've already got an E and a B. We've got our E doubled. We're missing the G. The G is an important one to have. So we'll have our G. And notice it is dropping below where the bass was, but only by a step. So we were still within bounds of the rules. Okay, now we're going back down to a 1. And notice we're following these rules because look at the bass line. It goes down 5th. Right, so here we're going down perfect 4th. So it's going down a 4th, and then it's going down a perfect 5th, and then we go back up a perfect 4th. We go up a 2nd, so this is going to be a different set of rules, and then we're going to go down another 5th. So mostly it's rule 1 and 2 that apply to this particular example. All right, so as we move along, let's see. So we go back to 1, which means we're back to A, C, E. All right. So in our bass, we've got an A, and we've got the C. So we're missing an E or we could probably use an A doubled, right? Now, here's the deal. If we can carry over a note, like the E, then we will, all right? Now all we have to do is fill in A, or we have to decide whether we want to have the tenor go to A or go to C. Now generally what the rule is that we will go stepwise, right? When you're moving in perfect fourth, the other voice is going to move stepwise, so that's going to double the A again. Actually, we're just going to leave out the E. Well, we've already got the E covered. So we're going to double the A, and the tenor is going to move up stepwise. All right? All right, next chord. So now we've got a D major chord, 4 chord. So our notes are possibly D, F, and A. All right? And so we've got one carryover here with the A. So we're going to keep the A in the tenor. All right? And then we just got to figure out what to do. We've got a D in the bass, we've got a D in the soprano. Nothing we can do about that. So we really need a third. So we're going to have, again, it's going to follow the rules. Carry over 1, and then we move 1 stepwise, just like that. So we throw it up in the F. All right, good progress. All right, now we've got to apply the rules for a major second. So if you remember, the rule is that whatever the bass moves, so if it's moving up stepwise, everything else has to move to its closest note, but going down, so in contrary motion. So our possibilities for our 5 chord are E, G, B, again, right? So you can see the D has gone down to B in the soprano. Our F should probably go down to E. And then that leaves our A going down to G. You can see all of these are going in contrary motion to the bass. All right? And then finally, last but not least, we have back to our A, C, E chord. All right? And our E can carry over, so let's keep him around. E sticks around. This is a really boring alto part. So E's going to stay, and then our A is doubled. So, but here's where we come into, do we go down to an E for the tenor, which is perfectly acceptable, but if we want to stick with rule number 1, where we're carrying over a note, we want the tenor to move in stepwise motion. So in this case, we're going to actually triple the A, like this, right? And do that. Now the other thing you have to double check is to look for any parallel octaves or fifths, all right? So after I do this, I'm going to check over and see, and basically what you want to look for is notes moving in parallel motion, right? So like these guys, we're okay there because we have a space of from F to D, right, is a 6th, and from A to D is a 4th, and from A to F is a 4th. So we're running in 4ths and 6ths there, so we're all right. Here's another one that could be problematic. E to C, luckily that's a 6th, and F to D is a 6th. If these were both moved down a step, they would be parallel fifths, and they'd be bad, and we'd have to try and start over again. Generally, you get into the rules that you break when you're trying to avoid parallel fifths and octaves. Let's see, are there any octaves that are a problem? I don't think so. And then as you can see, here's another pair of notes that are parallel motion, but they are in thirds, so we're okay there. And it's totally possible that I missed one, but I think we're okay. All right, so that is 9.1, and now let's go on to 9.2.